Good day, guys. My name is Pulen Joel Mashishi, a sociology student from University of Johannesburg. Today I will be talking about group dynamics, reflecting back on the documentary that was provided about the Fees Must Fall movement that took place at the University of Witwatersrand. This video is all about group dynamics, which are the influential actions, changes, and processes that occur within and between groups. This was defined by Dr. Freistein 2014. According to the documentary, a group can be defined as students, workers, and parents who are connected together fighting for the increase of fees by 10.5%, which was insane and expensive. This was defined by Cancer 2019. The documentary talks about a collective group of students that were against the 10.5% increase in fees. Students and parents formed a collective group because they had the same aims and actions, fighting for themselves and students who did not afford the current expensive fees, and the university wanted to make things worse by increasing those expensive fees. The goals of these students were negotiating and executing. In terms of negotiating, they needed to negotiate the percentage that fees increased with, and they wanted free education for all students because they were not able to pay their tuition fees for themselves. The type of group identified from the documentary was a collective group because students gathered and then dissolved after everything was solved. The type of conformity that I identified from the documentary was compliance, because most of the students joined the protest not because they wanted to, but because majority of students were protesting. Others joined the protest because they were forced. They were fetched from their classes and examination halls. Now let's move on to norms. Norms are a set of rules that specify what kind of behavior is appropriate and unwanted within the group. This was also identified by Cancer 2019. The students had cultural norms, whereby they believed that if they strike, their needs were going to be met and their concerns were going to be acknowledged. As a result, the student went against the formal norms because the increase in fees were official and were announced by the Minister of Higher Education together with the institution. As a result, students who were protesting were strictly punished. Others were even arrested because what they did was against the law. According to Maldon 2011, the protest was not approved by government officials. The reason why students were arrested, it is because they damaged few properties. Now moving on to social power. According to Mann 2012, power, it is the capacity to influence others even though they refuse to be influenced. From the documentary, the type of power that I identified was legitimate power. This legitimate power was expressed when the university increased the tuition fees because it was the one that had power to do so. The other type of power that I identified from the documentary was resources power, whereby power holders controlled access to resources. In this case, the power holders were the Minister of Higher Education and the University of Witwatersrand. They controlled access to education of students by increasing tuition fees. So that's when students were not able to access education and others were able to access education because they had money to pay for their tuition fees. Resources power is almost similar to informational power because informational power is the power to provide access to and control of information. These three types of powers that were used by the institution and the Minister of Higher Education negatively affected students because Students ended up not being able to pay for their own fees. As a result, it led them to strike, and after striking, other students were beaten, others were shot, others were even arrested. Now, moving on to social influence. Most of the students accepted the strike publicly and privately disagreed because they did not want to be seen as sellouts. This shows a sign of compliance. Other students did not join the strike publicly because they were scared of punishment. This shows that these students had a strategic anti-conformity whereby they agreed with the strike but did not want to join the strike because of being afraid of being punished. Now moving on to cohesion. According to Johnson 2010, cohesion is the degree of which members of a group feel connected, working together harmoniously, and remaining committed to shared goals. The type of cohesion I identified from the video was task cohesion, whereby students were working together as a coordinated unit to stop the increase in fees and also advocate for advantaged students who could not afford the fees to get free education and stop paying fees because they did not afford those fees. Now moving on to the last part of the video, which is social support. Social support, according to Taylor 2011, is a network of relationships and resources that help individuals during difficult times by providing them with emotional, practical, and financial support. From the documentary, I was able to identify 3 types of social support: emotional support, informational support, and inclusive support. Emotional support occurs when one is expressing care and concern for others. Informational support is shown when one is giving other people useful information to use in certain situations. Emotional support takes place when other people seek a sense of belonging. I guess you got the information you needed from this video, and hopefully you enjoyed watching it. Bye.